Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of This Week at Phillies Baseball. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on a busy Phillies day, obviously, but the Phillies taking 2 out of 3 over the weekend with the Padres and also with the Cincinnati Reds. Mark Baker joining me. Joey Mux will join us momentarily, just join us a little bit later, so we could join. He'll join in the next couple minutes or so. But Mark, man, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Good, man. I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, seeing the Phillies get a couple wins out of it, take a 2 out of 3 over the weekend was pretty cool to see. Actually, seeing another good, stellar performance by Zach Wheeler. And that's where we'll start at. So, because speaking of Zach Wheeler, beginning of the week, Zach Wheeler started the first of his two starts. He started yesterday, got a complete game out of it too, but also another stellar performance by him on the opening series against the Padres. So the question I want to ask you first is, are we actually seeing that? I mean, it's kind of I know it's hindsight being 2020 here about Zach Wheeler here, but my first question to you is that, I mean, are we actually seeing like a Cy Young nominee with Zach Wheeler on the mound every 5 days?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was at the game on Monday night, and it's funny because Xander Bogaerts hit one right center field, and hit off the wall, and I was like, damn, well that was really their one chance, At the end of the day, when you get your chance against Wheeler, you better take it. And
Sure, yeah.
there's only a few guys in baseball, it seems, that every couple of years where you just have that, where you have that effect of you don't get many chances, and if you get those chances, there's a lot of pressure on the opposing offense because you have a guy that, I mean, in the eighth inning, he's at 87 pitches. That like yesterday, he's at 87 pitches. It's unbelievable.
Amazing,
He's
amazing.
able to keep his pitch count down and also dominate. Which, uh, if you look at the opposition, I mean, the Padres had the knuckleballer go on Monday night, and by
Mm-hmm.
the third inning, he had 58 pitches. That's unbelievable compared to what Wheeler has. I mean, just from like a matchup standpoint, the Phillies are always going to have the favorable matchup once every 5 days. It doesn't really matter who they go against. There might be one or two guys that they could go at all this year where you don't look at Wheeler, you don't say, like, if it's 1-0 in the eighth inning, it would not surprise me. And if
Mm-hmm.
the game was 2-1 and Wheeler's still out there in the ninth inning, would not surprise me.
Yeah, no question. I think the other thing that stuck out to me the most this week with Zach Wheeler was just that there was two excellent performances. Like yesterday was like a fantastic game. It got a complete. I mean, you never see a complete game anymore like you used to see. Like if your ace goes down the road, like a Roy Halladay, when you have like complete games and all that too. So now we're joined by Joey Marks here. Joey, what's up, brother?
What is happening? I'm working on demon time. Sorry.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's all good. So, this is a very good question. I'll ask you. So, since we're talking about Zach Wheeler here, actually had a great performance yesterday with the complete game he had, and also a stellar performance at the beginning of the week last Monday. So, overall, Joey, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mark here. So, are we seeing that Zach Wheeler could be the odds-on favorite that could win this Young at the end of the year?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I hate to say it like this because I don't want to compare one to the other, but like how Embiid got kind of screwed out of the MVP 2 years prior to him winning the
Yeah,
MVP, Zach Wheeler got screwed out of the Cy Young 2 years prior, both years prior.
sure.
I do think that he is capable of winning the Cy Young this year. And look, that stuff yesterday, I'm telling you now, that was special.
It
That was
was.
special. I mean, I knew I was like, when it was 1-1, I'm like, really, guys? Really? Can we not screw Zach over here? Can we just give the man one? Like, I feel like he was not going to leave the game. He's like, no, I refuse to leave. Not until they score a run.
You know, it was one pitch away from a perfect game. That's the only thing that comes out of it, you know? Because I was watching the highlights of it last night. I said, damn, if of all people that had to hit the home run was Austin friggin' Hayes, who couldn't do jack BS so on top of a shingle.
That kidney's fine, ain't it now? Huh?
Yeah,
That
one
kidney's
hump.
fine.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But man, that performance yesterday, like you said, Joe, stellar. I mean, it was a stellar performance. I mean, he pitched very well. And I'm thinking maybe too, you thought about the times when Rob Thompson would try to pull him out when he was starting to struggle a little bit, and probably after that that was in the fifth inning, was it not? Like the home run hit that he got the home run.
Yep, top of the fifth.
Top of the fifth. So yeah, I wouldn't think he was going to get pulled that early on in the that early on in that, not in the season, but early on in that game. But after that, he just turned the lights out, man. He just did whatever he could, and I'm saying it right now. And for me, I think he's probably one of the Cy. If he's not the Cy Young for this year, I mean, if it goes to Paul Skeens again, or if it goes to like another good pitcher out there, I mean, it's not gonna be Shohei Ohtani. Let's keep it real here, because he just came back, obviously. But but overall, I mean, yeah, I think this is his. I think this was just proof that this guy should be a nominee for Cy Young of the Year. If he's not the Cy Young candidate, then it might be a lost season for the Phillies, because he's just been lights out like for the last few games, and quite frankly, he should be the Cy Young candidate, no question about it.
I mean, I'm going to go one step further with that. Mm-hmm. You know, with Zach Wheeler, he's the MVP of this team so far.
Oh, God,
because, you know, a guy that can give you the kind of starts that he has. You know, he's only got 2 losses, I believe, on his record.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 losses, I don't consider them all his fault.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. And so, like, that being said, every time Zach Wheeler takes the mound, he's got a chance to do something as spectacular. And James, I'm creeping up on that Doc feel. I'm creeping up on that Doc feel with Zach.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But yesterday, I'm like, man, if he just had that one pitch back, he would have had that perfect game. Oh, and it just would have been so sweet.
Yeah, dude. You know what's crazy? I mean, in a way, he reminds me of Doc Howdy so much so. Obviously, Doc only had maybe a couple of but the difference is with Roy Howdy, he had 2 good seasons, but then after they start to falter. But the thing about it too with Zach Wheeler, ever since he came here with the Phillies, he has just been dominant on every which way. He's been so dominant that even every day when I see like him coming onto the mound, and you know what's crazy too, like the Phillies could actually help the starting 5 could actually learn something from Zach Wheeler's like performance. Like a Jesus Luzardo can learn something, like a Ranger Suarez can learn something about it, or even Christopher Sanchez. But overall, Zach Wheeler is like the captain of this team. I mean, he's like one of the captains. I mean, like you even said, he is the MVP of the off. I think right now he's probably the MVP for this Phillies team as of right now. I mean, you think about the team that has some up and downs along the way, but Zach Wheeler, every single game, he just keeps on getting better every chance he gets.
Let me add this, right?
Sure.
With Kershaw, there was the but. It was he's dominant, but you know, in postseason he's had his struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zach Wheeler hasn't had that, and similar to Doc Halladay, there isn't that but, which that's great for the Phillies going down the stretch, because this isn't a guy that has can beat up on the Reds at home in July.
Right.
This guy has not had this narrative that he has come up short in the playoffs, because at the end of the day, if it's going to be Wheeler and it's going to be Suarez, we are going to need that game, a game like that in September or October, because like the slugfest, it got us to 2-1 against Houston, the World Series. But we need that. There's going to be some days, and it's happened, where the bats aren't showing up. We need that performance. And, you know, it's one of these – this is the kind of performance that you can just see that, all right, like, if we can get this guy like this in October, and when we need that game 1 or game 5, it's like this is the kind of guy that like we're lucky to have.
Yeah, it's funny too. Cole Hamels was doing a game yesterday, and I said to myself, it kind of reminded me of like that Holiday Hamels tree during that 2008 to 2010 field, like seeing like the MVP of the World Series give him some accolades along the way too. So yeah, I mean, it's just every time when I see Zach Wheeler come, like when he's on the mound and he continues to dominate in every which way. I mean, I gotta say right now, it's really exciting to see how dominant he is, and he continues to be dominant, and that's most importantly that should definitely continue on into those months like you mentioned, Mark, in like August and September along the way too. But speaking of things that could come at a cost for the Phillies, this is a question I like to ask you guys here. So this is our player spotlight here. Bryce Harper. So it feels like that wrist injury never fully healed on like after he came back. Do you think he would have came back to? I mean, my question too. This is a two-part question for you guys. So, do you think Bryce Harper came back too soon from that injury, Joey? I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I do. I think they should have held him out until the end of the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that the part that makes me more concerned is that this is like the Stott injury.
Yeah.
When that he had that issue with his elbow, it affected him the whole season long. And there's a big difference between Bryson Stott and Bryce Harper. But here's what I would say. You need to have that guy as your centerpiece.
Sure.
And if pitchers don't fear him, especially if they don't fear his power, that's a bad situation to be in for your lineup. You need to have that pitcher second guessing, grooving a fastball down the plate against Bryce Harper, knowing that Bryce could just take him yard. And I think Bryce, look, he's not going to the All-Star break. He's got this 6-game stint. I honestly think Saturday or Sunday, probably Sunday, Thompson should sit Harper and send him back to Philly early, like let him kick his feet up for a little bit, rest the wrist, get himself right, and, come back in the second half because we're going to need all hands on deck.
No question.
And that is something, we look at like where the record is right now with the Phillies, and there was something that was brought up, and I find it as a very interesting point of view. There was Bryce Harper, who basically missed almost a month. Aaron Nola, who basically is going to miss almost 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have Alvarado, who had missed and is going to miss more significant games.
Right.
So we would have been without 3 of our top pieces for significant time this season, yet we're 2.5 games out of first place.
Yeah. That's true. The other thing that sticks out to me the most with Bryce Harper, the resume I put out a couple weeks ago when me and Joe, like Joey, very well about his injury history.
Yep.
And it feels like it's kind of like a running bingo card, to say the least, because all these injuries that he suffered. But overall, Mark, the same question to you here. Do you think Bryce Harper came back too soon?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely, without a doubt. The good news is that the Phillies seem to have gone back to a little bit more of a traditional style of a lineup, and you can see that. You can see that because Trey Turner, this past week, it just seems he belongs in that leadoff spot, right. And to get that jump off the start has really benefited them. And you can see they've gone a little bit away from the analytics a little bit and gone back to here's our fastest guy, probably our most athletic player. Let's get him in as many bats as possible, and it's worked out for them. It is a concern because you're going to need Bryce Harper down the road. I mean, unfortunately, Bohm has been hitting well, but that's not a guy down the stretch that I'm relying upon. I mean, we pay Bryce Harper the big bucks for a reason, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is that especially in those later months, like we talked about with Zach Wheeler, it's going to be like what's it going to look like come August, September, and even October when the time calls for it too. But here's my 2 cents about it too, because I feel like I feel like what Harper does. I mean, look, he's a great player when he's effective and healthy, and he's a great. I mean, he's like one of the best. I mean, the way I see Harper too. And I looked down at his history with his injuries in front, and me and Joey brought it up a couple weeks ago, and even you brought up Joel Embiid early on in the show. This is kind of like what we had to deal with Joel Embiid, maybe, like a Carson Wentz. The difference is we got rid of Carson Wentz before the getting was good. But the thing that sticks out to me the most with Harper is that like you're waiting for that other shoe to fall and trying to figure out, okay, what other injury he's going to suffer through. I mean, now it's like I feel like every time when I watch Bryce Harper come back and he's fully healthy again, I'm feeling like, oh God, when's he going to get hurt again? Because it kind of feels like you're worried, you're kind of have that little anxious like gut feeling in your stomach. You're thinking like, okay, he's fully healthy, but for how long? You know, how long it's going to take him to get hurt again? So that's the one thing that worries me the most about him, because he's a great player. When the Phillies got him back in 2019, I thought he was probably the best player available in the offseason that the Phillies like hit a home run on. And then you think about Bedlam at the bank that he did and that NLCS that got him to the World Series. But the difference is just that I want to have that same kind of level of field that I had with Bryce Harper when he came back 7 years ago. But the difference is the injuries just continue to get in the way in every which way.
You know, it makes me feel a little bit like with Bryce Harper, similar to Joel Embiid, they get in their own way.
Yeah.
And it's the style in which they play. Look, we could criticize and scrutinize Joel Embiid for a lot of things. Playing hard isn't one of them.
Sure.
He plays hard, but the idea that he plays hard and he gets hurt, it's the same MO that Bryce Harper deals with. He plays hard and gets hurt. Like, you can't tell a guy like that, I need you to peel it back a little. Like,
sure,
an 80% effort Bryce Harper is better than 100% of, like, every other baseball player in the major leagues. Like, but Bryce needs to buy into that. Like, you could say it, I could say it, Rob Thompson could say it, Dave Dombrowski could say it, John Middleton could say it. But Bryce Harper needs to believe it. And up to this point, he hasn't. And look, that's not to say, you know what? If you ground out to second, don't run through the base.
Right.
No, I'm saying that you don't need to like try to take an extra base every single time.
Right.
You don't need to be like the guy that swings the bat like Hercules every single time.
Like a 5-run homer every chance he gets.
Right. Look, you can have a blooper. This is why I think Kyle Schwarber means more to this team right now than Bryce Harper does. Because Kyle Schwarber has modified his game. We think about 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, both 3 years ago and 2 years ago. Right. We used to say about Kyle Schwarber that when he was leading off, all he was a home run guy. That's all he was. Home runs and walks. That was it. Nothing in between. Now look at him. He's hitting singles. He's hitting home runs still. Maybe not at the clip we'd all like, but he's still doing really well. My point is maybe Bryce Harper needs to take a page out of Kyle's book to become a better player going forward.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I think the other thing that sticks out to me the most with Harper is that, look, I mean, once he's effective, he is like a dominant, he's consistent, he plays very well to the vest, but then you see sometimes when Harper does whatever he can to hit a 5-run homer every chance he gets because he doesn't know any better. But the thing that sticks out to me the most with Harper is that every time when I feel like when Harper has a chance to come up to the bat, I'm thinking like, okay, is it going to be either a strikeout or is it going to be a walk? Sometimes it feels like it's more strikeouts than anything, let alone that wrist injury that he's suffering from. But overall, the thing that I found a little annoying was that he actually didn't. I mean, this is the same risk that he suffered through last year too, and I felt like he never got treatment for it, or he never got the help he needed to get this risk back to the way it was. But overall, I mean, I know you're a baseball player, and I know you got to play. I know you play 162 of them every single chance you get. But overall, I mean, not like the lacking of injuries is going to come back and bite him eventually. But hopefully down the road, maybe the one thing that Harper needs to do is that, if he's not playing well right now, maybe you probably need to rest him to try to get him back to not 100%, but maybe 50% is better than nothing. But overall, I just think right now Harper probably needs a day or two to clear his head more than anything after this All-Star break. I do agree 100% with you, Joe. I mean, am I right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're faced with this conversation that, Bryce Harper may become, like a Frank Thomas,
right?
Like a big hurt type of guy where it's just notoriety and the occasional bomb, and is that what we necessarily paid for? I don't know.
Right.
It's ironic that, like it was said, that Schwarber adjusted his game and someone had to take his old game, and it might well be Bryce Harper, but it's tough because I think that this is not going to get any better. You hope it just doesn't get any worse.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so let's move on here on this player spotlight. So this is actually something I thought about since the All-Stars were not the All-Star show was last night, right? To see the players go into the All-Star game. So it's only two for the Phillies. It's Kyle Schwarber and Zach Wheeler, which is obviously that will be the biggest obvious reason for that. But there's a couple players that I have on my list here that could be maybe one or two of them, if that. But it looks to me Trey Turner should have got it, should have got more of an All-Star, should have been more considered to be into the All-Star game. But if you had to pick one player that you thought that could have been in the All-Star game, but it got snubbed from, I mean, for me it's Trey Turner. But if you had to pick one player to play in the Midsummer Classic that wasn't picked last night by the Phillies, who would that be? Mark, I'll ask you this question first.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's Trey Turner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he's done, what he's done for our offense in just the past couple of months has been, it's a bit of a troubling reality, but it's fine in the sense that, we paid Trey Turner in essence to be, we paid him as if he was going to be our Derek Jeter. And in the right system, he's flourished. In the right, okay, let's lead him off. He's fast. He can use his speed to muck up the base paths, and that's fine. Is it necessarily similar with Harper? Is it necessarily what we were looking to get? Not necessarily, right. But I mean, hell, the guy has been producing, and has been producing. Arguably is one of the better offensive shortstops in the game, considering who he's got going up against. But also another thing to add is that because the pitching has been so good, that his defense has actually been superb. Where that is always the criticism of Trey Turner is that his defense has been a little shaky. That hasn't been this year. So not only like the 300 average, sure, we can chalk that up in modern baseball. But not even that. It's just that his defense, he's just been all around a good shortstop.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too with Trey Turner, because I thought about it too. It was either one or two players. I was thinking maybe like a Bryson Stott, maybe Trey Turner. But overall, the way Trey Turner has played the last handful of games, and the way, I mean, yeah, his defense is a little shaky here and there, but it's not as a big problem as it once was. He's doing better at the plate. I thought he's been doing very well. Joey, I'll ask you the same question to you. Do you have any players that the Phillies should have elected into the All-Star game in the Midsummer Classic next week?
Well, James, I hate to be difficult, but I have to disagree with the both of you. I
Oh
don't
wow.
think Trey Turner um, should have made it to the All Star. I think his batting is good. I think he's doing well at the plate,
Hmm.
but he still has 9 errors in the field, and
Yeah, that's fair.
that is decent enough to take him out of that running, And there's a lot of quality shortstops still in the National League. So for me, he was out for me.
Oh,
The
okay.
one that I thought was Ranger Suarez.
Hmm.
Rangers had close to a 1.5, 1.05 ERA since he's come back. And so that is just filthy.
Right.
And I mean, the idea that this is a guy who I think most of us, after the issues he had with his back
Hmm.
last year and how he went a little haywire, we didn't know what Ranger we were going to get this year.
Hmm.
We were hoping it was this. And I think he's put at least a month or two of good games together where he's deserving of at least a nod.
Hmm.
Um, Christopher Sanchez would have been another one, but the downfall of Christopher Sanchez is he's pitching Sunday, so
Right.
he will not be able to pitch on the All Star game.
Well, the other thing too was that if Jesus Lazard, maybe I'll go one step closer. What you were saying too, Joe. Um, with Jesus Lazardo, like early on in this season, he was probably the odds-on favorite that could have been in that All-Star game with like the group of others that we were talking about here. But ever since he's had a real disappointing month, and I looked at his ERA, it was like 9+ in June. Was like, I mean, that's crazy to think about, especially how bad he was in that June month. But overall, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Though I'm with you with the Trey Turner thing. I think the errors like probably are something that he has to critique a little bit because 9 errors is nothing to sneeze about.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean. The thing, I mean, I probably would have added one more, but I've had to pick either Trey Turner or Bryson Stott. I mean, both players going to admit probably could be the odds-on favorite that could have been in the All-Star game too. But
Well, keep something in mind. Alec Baum has been batting over 300
Yeah.
for the better part.
that's true.
If you take, Cole Hamels brought it up on the telecast. You take out that month, that first month of the season,
Hmm.
and Alec Baum's a above 300 hitter,
Hard to
and
believe.
like that is crazy to think from where he started to where he is now.
I didn't even
And
expect that to happen either, Joe. Gonna admit.
no, and the other is true in the sense of Luzardo, because if James, you remember when the season first started on the
Hmm.
Patterson Ave Sports Show, we talked about the idea that Luzardo, who was basically all but given up on due
Right.
to injuries, was potentially an early Cy Young candidate.
Yep.
And now, yeah, he's had a really bad June.
Yeah.
Um, the hope is that he can right the ship, and pitchers have a better chance of righting the ship than hitters. If you're
Right.
in a hitting slump, it's harder to get out of. When you're
Yeah.
a pitcher, you start with a clean slate all over again.
Yeah. Definitely. And the last thing I'll say about this too, before we move on here, overall, I mean, you're right about this too with Luzardo. I mean, early on in this season, he was like dominant in every which way. You would have thought he had like the first or the second, like one or two aces probably, and then you have Sanchez and Suarez, and here and there too. But overall, I mean, I think it's the right amount of good All Stars on this team because I think the Phillies only have two. But then you bring up this Alec Bohm stuff that you told me about that not like you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, and I'm thinking like, wait, so why did we not make Alec Bohm make Alec Bohm be a part of the All Star game? But overall, sometimes it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And hopefully this continues on after the All-Star break and especially in the later months in August, September, and also red
All
October too.
all I have to say, James, is Schwarber, do not win the home run derby.
Right.
Do not win the home run derby.
Yep. Your message to God's ears, my friend. Anyway, let's move on here. So, let's see. Okay. Well, we talk about the bullpen so much as of lately. I mean, last week was more like anger management of how much I couldn't stand Jordan Romano, but I'm gonna try to keep my composure here because obviously this is the last time we'll talk before the All-Star break, and I guess we'll be back very very soon to talk more Phillies towards the beginning of the second half of the season. But there is a trade deadline coming up very very soon for the Phillies, and that's coming up towards the beginning of the second half. So if you're Dave Dabrowski, what would your needs will be, especially for a bullpen piece to be a part of this team? So overall, I mean, there's a couple pitchers out there that we talked about previously on the show, but Joey, this has to be a consistent reminder that we definitely need bullpen help in this upcoming trade deadline. Am I right?
Yes, and not a guy like Carlos Estevez.
Right.
We don't need that guy. Like we need someone that is proven. And I get it. With bullpen, you're rolling the dice. And a couple names I've heard out there. Two I'm okay with. One I'm like, no, stay away from. Please stay away from. The one that I'm saying stay away from is Aroldis Chapman. Stay away. Stay
thank you.
away.
No, thank
him.
you. No, thank you.
The other ones are that I would like to see are Batista and Bernard, or Bernard, or whatever it is from Pittsburgh.
Bednar,
Yeah,
Jared Bednar.
Bednar. Yeah.
Bednar. Yeah, there we go.
Bednar. Yeah, so I'd like to see him or Batista come over. The idea of also possibly going to, like we had brought up before, if the price tag ain't too steep, I'd entertain an offer with the Athletics for Miller, but we'll see.
Yeah, same question to you. Absolutely, I agree. What you said there, Joe, more than anything like that. Same question to you, Mark. What kind of bullpen piece would be a good fit for this Phillies team if you're Dave Dabrowski?
Well, that's tough because you're going to probably have to give something up.
Right.
You know, and I would, a couple of names that I've seen floated are actually under the Marlins farm system. If we can get it, listen, you know, we get a couple of pieces. They have one guy, Anthony Bender, who apparently has a pretty nasty.
I was just gonna say Bender too. Gonna be.
You know, that's another guy that we could go after. The problem is that, you know, who we're going to have to give up for? Because I mean, you know, if we offer them, hey, we'll give you a left fielder that's hitting 230. I mean, like, you know, they're going to tell us to go for it and go take a hike type of thing. So it might be we might have to give something up. You know, I know this is getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but you know, possibly Mick Abel, possibly one of our young guys. Hey, we send him to the Marlins. It's a low likelihood that we're going to have buyer's remorse.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Mark, because I say right now, if you're going to try to get like a Bender or probably like somebody in that time frame for the Marlins, they're going to probably ask for prospects in return. So you might have to get rid of like a Mick Abel, maybe. I wouldn't say Justin Crawford, but maybe somebody in that same kind of field, though. So for me, I mean, if the Phillies have to go out and get a piece from a bullpen, I would go out of my way and see what the other teams are going to be affordable. Like Cleveland's a good example of that. I would like to see what Cleveland would look like, especially. There's a couple of other pieces that I see that, I mean, not like a Tanner Scott. Like, I would love to see Tanner Scott come to the Phillies, especially. That would definitely help the Phillies more than anything, especially with that bullpen mess, especially with Romano. And I think if you probably got Tanner Scott, maybe Romano probably doesn't come here. He probably goes somewhere else. But overall, the Orioles look like a team that could be a team that look like they can try to trade some pieces because I feel like they're looking like on the outside looking in, so I'm thinking they probably want my prospects. I'm not sure. There's a lot more other teams out there that would have that same kind of feel of like trying to get prospects in return. So, I mean, that's my kind of prediction is like the two teams that come out to me the most, like you said, Mark, are probably like more like the Marlins or maybe like what the Orioles have in store, because I think like the Orioles are going to be trying to be sellers at the trade deadline too, more than anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be that surprised if the Nationals were sellers.
Yeah,
They just fired their manager and their general manager.
Yeah,
So
finally.
for me, I think whoever the new interim general manager is, I would assume he needs to kind of make a splash. And if that splash means a good return on investment, he may have to give up a little bit to get a lot more back. And look, it's like I said, on the Passion Ave Sports Show with you, James. Like, it sucks that we have to give up the prospects, but you got to ask yourself, are we getting something that's not just a rental?
right.
Like, I don't want a guy like Estevez where he's gone in a year
Right.
or
Yeah.
gone at the end of the year, and we gave up guys like Mick Abel and Justin Crawford. That's different.
Well, the other thing that that's a good, probably could be a good piece of the puzzle is to see what the Diamondbacks have too, because the Diamondbacks have good bullpen pieces too that sticked in our crawl a couple years ago, like a Ryan Thompson's a good example of that. Or I don't think Seawolt's with them anymore. I think he's with Cleveland. But overall, I mean, just like a couple of teams that could be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. Like I said, the Orioles could be one of them. Maybe the Diamondbacks, maybe. But then again, like it's gonna be like one of those teams that look at bullpen pieces that they desperately need. Not like you said, Joe, like Reynolds, but somebody that could be a good piece for the future for their bullpen, especially to help us out and help them out too.
Well, do you guys think the Braves are going to be sellers at the trade deadline? Because you have someone like
That's a good
Minter
question.
in the bullpen, like someone like him that's one of our better bullpen pieces. Like there's people out there. There are bullpen arms out there. It's just going to be about what the price tag is,
Right.
and what we're willing to accept and give up. And I think Aiden Miller is going to be on the chopping block. I think Mick Abel is going to be on the chopping block. I think JT Crawford. But I think for JT Crawford, it has to be good enough of a deal.
Correct.
That's just my takeaway. It has to be good enough of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I hopefully what the Phillies do is that if they don't do anything and think everything is all fine and all whatnot, and it feels like we're going to be definitely running it back. But go ahead, Joe.
Then Dave needs to go.
Exactly.
Dave needs to go.
Exactly.
Because when I get to hear and say Daryl Morey does a better GM job than you, that's when you need to leave.
Gotta learn something from Howie Roseman or Danny Briere's book. That's the most important thing. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the Flyers just got Trevor Zegras, and also the Eagles got Saquon Barkley. Walk a mile in their shoes a little bit, you know?
And the Flyers just re-signed Cam York.
There you go.
5 years.
Exactly right. Good segue. All right, so this is another topic I would talk about here, since we're not going to be on next week to talk about the Phillies' first half of the season. So overall, this is a two-part question for you and Joey, obviously, Mark. So where do you see where are the Phillies at this point of the season? Did you actually think this team was expected the way they are right now, and this is what they are? Or do you think they could have done probably more to see like what they'll look like in the second half of the season? I mean, but where do you see this? I mean, how do you see this Phillies team doing in the second half of the season, especially after the All-Star break? Joe, I'll start with you.
Well, here's my thing. Coming into the season, everyone was down because we didn't make a big splash in the offseason.
Right.
And so I metered expectations. I said 91 wins, basically.
Right.
Now, that doesn't look like it's impossible to reach, okay? But doesn't mean that it's a certainty. But my feeling with the way that this team has played up to this point, I mean, I heard this stat earlier. So kind of the first, what was it? They in the first kind of half of the season, they were 34-16. Then the last like 20, no, last 40 games, they were 19-19.
Right.
So they've been playing kind of mediocre, but they've also had a lot tougher opponents. My thing is the second half of the season, it's the stretch run. They have to kind of go back to
Correct.
what they were in the beginning of the season, that 34-16. So my feeling is that the Phillies will end up with 91-92 wins, and they will end up close. I'm not sure if they'll get the first seed, but they will win the division. I will say that.
Yeah, that's a very good. That's a good strategy right there too. Mark, same question to you. You see this Phillies team where they are right now. Did you think that this was expected, or did you think they could have done more? And the question I ask the same thing to Joey here is that what do you see the Phillies do? What do you see the Phillies do in this second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I had them at about 85 wins, and barring a second half collapse, that's not likely going to happen. I think we kind of got blinded by the fact that it's a little quiet one, and so myself and others, we just expected, hey, we're gonna take a step back. The thing is that we do have going for us is the Mets haven't entirely been healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can talk about their history of second half collapse and being choke artists, but at the end of the day, the Mets are probably as talented, maybe more talented at this point. It would not surprise me if the Phillies were a wild card team. And you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that. Last year we got a little bit of the Braves treatment, where as the wild card team, they came in and beat us.
Right.
It might be better. And history shows that top seeds, big division winners, it doesn't always work out. Always in baseball, and this has been, history has suggested that one of our division winners is not going to make it out of the division series.
Yeah.
And not make it out of the wild card series. So it might be better for the first time the Phillies are the ones. First time since 2023 that we're the ones with the chip on our shoulder.
Right.
And you know what? Like, I think one of the things that we have going for us is that with the exception of Bryce Harper, we haven't had a whole ton of trouble with injuries, not compared to the Mets. And I think that's something that we have going for us. If we can stay healthy, we have shown that even we didn't need to spend the farm this offseason, or still the same consistent team as we were before. So, I think when we've tried to make that finishing move with Kepler, with our friend Austin Hayes, with Whit Merrifield, it's just blown up in our face. At the end of the day, our team is as talented enough to take us to about 92, 93 wins. And who knows what's going to happen with the Mets, because they have a history of you just don't know what you're going to get. We have, in the past 4 years, we've known what this team can do.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew we had an Otto Kemp in the farm system? And we didn't need a Max Kepler or anything like that.
Right. So for me, I'm in the same boat as you guys are, especially what this Phillies team will look like in the second half. For me, I'm in the same category as Mark on this one, because especially if you win the division, and you win that NL East, we all know what happened a few years ago. I can always talk about that one bloody nil with the St. Louis Cardinals, and then the Giants that were a Cinderella team at beating in 2010 and 2011. But then in 2022, they were a Cinderella team, and they got to the World Series out of it. Yeah, I'm not saying the Mets are going to win that NL East, and if they do, they're probably done by the first round either way, because they'll either take on like a team like a Dodgers, or probably like they'll the Mets will turn. The Mets will Met. Let's just keep it real, 100 here. Let's keep it weird here. But overall, I think what the Phillies need to do, especially in the second half, is that they have to do that same philosophy that they did early on in the season, and they just continue to dominate in every which way. You're almost there. You're almost at the finish line. Now it's not how you start. Now it's how you finish. And how they finish, I say they're at 92 wins. I hope they win the NL East, but I would not be. I'll be okay if there were a wild card team or if they were a Cinderella team again, because like usually it's not who's the best team. It's about who's the hottest team, you know? And that's the most important key about, especially with this Phillies team, because they seen that success back in 2022 when they were the underdog, and they took that to the World Series and actually won it. So that's the most important key here too. But more importantly than anything like that too is hopefully I see Harper. Hopefully we won't see no more injuries with Harper's front. We hopefully see Kyle Schwarber to dominate in every which way. Trey Turner to having more success. Bryson Stott still continue to play his backside off every chance he gets. And even at starting five with Wheeler, Suarez, Sanchez, and even, why am I trouble with his name? Sanchez, too. I think I did say Sanchez, but Suarez, and even Luzardo, too. But, I mean, those four aces, that's going to be what's going to come down to, is about who's going to be that those four aces, like I just alluded to, is that it's about who they're really gonna look like, especially, and who the real hitters are gonna be like come in the next months around this time of July, and then in August, and then September, and hopefully sometime in October, and hopefully we'll be parading down Broad Street when it's all said and done too.
Well, you got to keep in mind too, James, that the rumors have been true up to this point. Yeah. That Andrew Painter will be coming up at the end of the All-Star break. So you have him coming up. You have Aaron Nola, who's already throwing on flat surface. Right. You got two more guys. I'm not calling either one ace, but you got two more guys that are quality starters. And you add that to the fold as it is. And I mean, if you're Rob Thompson, you're like, I don't got enough space for all these guys. Where am I putting them? And
right.
That's where I think that's why I think it's so important to get like a certifiable closer, because even when Alvarado comes back, you treat Alvarado like, he's the setup man. You lost your spot. Now you got to set up for the guy that we had to trade because you did us dirty. Okay, so like that's fine. But then the middle relief, you got guys like Banks, and you got guys like Kirkring, you got guys like Strom. You could put a guy like Aaron Nola in there. You could put a guy like Ranger Suarez in there. You could put a guy like Christopher Sanchez in there. But you're going to have enough arms. You're going to have enough horses, as our old boy Frank Finnegan would say. You got to have enough horses. You got to just know where you're putting them in the barn.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And the last thing we'll say about this, too, is that, sure, it's only July. I mean, we're not at the mid-season point, but they always say, like, crunch time is coming before you know it, and also when the time calls for it, too, for this Phillies team, is that, like, hopefully the hitting hits their stride back again. They're starting to hitting season's coming. I think hitting season is still in the same level of that field, but overall, I mean, it's going to be about who that four aces are, and especially what the hitting is going to look like in the next few months or so too. So that's something to keep a close eye on, especially in the next few months or so. And every fan, especially like us, will be anxious to see what they have in store in that same, when they look for that season, when the time calls for it, when crunch time does come around, come April and September and October, like we mentioned. All right, let's get into, before we get out of here, the Phillies play 3 tonight up in San Francisco. That starts at 9:45 Eastern time at 6:45 Pacific time over in San Francisco. And tonight we got a good matchup for this Phillies game here tonight, as Christopher Sanchez takes the mound for the Phillies. He is 7-2 this season and has a 2.68 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Landon Rupp, who is 6-5 this season and has a 3.58 ERA. Tomorrow now we got Taijuan Walker for the Phillies back in the starting five again. Why do we continue to do this, guys? Why do we do this? I mean, come on. I mean, I understand Mick Abel hasn't been good, but come on, can we? Haven't we seen enough of Taijuan Walker? I mean, for God's sakes, man. I mean,
Apparently
anywho,
not. Apparently
nope.
not.
They love that Taijuan Walker. They love that. They're trying to score big with that blonde that's right across at the bar for sure. But the only difference is it's a catfish. But the difference is, speaking of Taijuan Walker, to jump back into the topic here, he is 3-5 this season and has a 3.64 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Robbie Ray. So he is 9-3 tomorrow. Robbie Ray is 9-3, and he has a 2.68 ERA. So I guess it's a scheduled loss tomorrow, to quote.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's probably, like to quote Doc Rivers, it's a scheduled loss, so I'm guessing that's probably where they'll lose that one. And on Wednesday, that's at 3:45, that's Jesus Luzardo will be on the mound that day actually at 3:45, as he is a 7-5 this year and has a 4.44 ERA. Hopefully he'll break the camel's back and have a better July. And he'll be opposed by great pitcher, 40-year-old Justin Verlander, who's still trying to look for his first win of the season. He is 0-6 this season and has an ERA of 4.84. And the Padres and then after that, the Phillies will be playing the Padres for 3 to close out the All-Star break. So overall, guys, I always ask you this question before we get out of here. What are your expectations for this Phillies team coming up this week between the Giants and the Padres? Like, what do you see this team go on this stretch for the next few games? Joey, I'll start with you.
Well, okay, so let me start with the San Francisco Giants.
Sure.
So I think we're going to win the San Francisco Giants series just because the first game, tonight's game and tomorrow's game, that's basically a wash because we're going to lose against Robbie Ray. Like Robbie Ray is going to have us in a fight.
Hell yeah.
But especially against Taijuan Walker.
God.
The over under for Taijuan Walker's walk rate is going to be like 3 to 5. Anyhow, so for tonight, I think Sanchez has got that. So I think it's going to be a 1-1 there. Now, this is where I think we get this series, is because we always like beating up on old Justin Verlander.
Yeah, we do.
We love beating up on him, especially when his honey's in attendance. So I hope Miss Kate Upton is in attendance for that day, because when she's in attendance, we thrive.
Oh, there is a blonde girl that's at the bar.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that.
And then with the San Diego series, I predict this is it's tough because I feel like San Diego wants to get back at us for beating them here.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with this road trip being a 3-3 split.
Yeah. Mark, same question to you. What are your expectations for this series between the Giants and the Padres looking?
I mean, I'm intrigued with the Giants series, particularly with Jesus Luzardo struggling and the Taijuan Walker experiment continuing. We're going to probably need bullpen support, and it's going to be another chance for our bullpen to see who works, who doesn't. Do we have hot arms? The next couple of weeks, we really need to decide, hey, are we going to go after some somewhat high profile relievers? And ultimately these two series might really help that, because we've got two starting pitchers going that, one's recently struggled and one, it really hasn't been a great fit. And I will say about the San Diego series is that typically we have dominated in San Diego, which is very, 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 very bizarre. But seems for the past 2 decades when we've played in San Diego, we have fared very well. So I would say we probably walk away with a 4-2 record. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was 5-1.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to go out. I'm in the same category as Joey on this one because I obviously you think about the Taiwan Walker thing and the Robbie Ray pitching matchup tomorrow. I can see that's a loss. Luzardo, hopefully it was just a bad month for him. Hopefully, like he gets back on track like he was at the beginning of the season. And the Padres, I mean, overall, Machado continues to give me a headache every once in a while. Tatis is like having himself a little bit of an up and down kind of year. Cronenworth continues to be Cronenworth. I mean, he's one guy. I'm not saying I can't stand him, but especially when he robs home runs every chance he gets, it's like, dude, he's just a menace out there. And overall, I think this week they have Yu Darvish coming back, so that's going to be another thing to keep a close eye on, especially more than anything like that. And overall, I think it's going to be a good thing. I mean, I can see the Phillies split with that Padres series. I mean, I can see them take 2 out of 3. But I would be sure though after that Padres series here in Philadelphia, might be like, like fool me once, shame on me now. Fool me twice, shame on you. Like same kind of philosophy. But overall, I mean, I see the Phillies kind of split on this one. So for me, it's good to be back. I mean, I'd be a little bit concerned if it's like 500 at best. But hopefully, when they come back at the end of the All-Star break, they come back and ready to lock and load for the upcoming stretch run, especially for those next few months too. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this portion here today of this week in Phillies baseball. Mark, I guess I'll ask you the question, and where can we see you next on this very important program?
Well, I'll be certainly back. I'll be back on the network in the near month. But in the meantime, follow me on TikTok at Mark the Solution.
Nice. And Joey, we got Philly Fame Legends coming up this week, and also we got a couple. I can imagine Mitch Kofsky has a show coming up for the Birds this week, and also this Saturday and also we're back at it again on Saturday. So we got a jam-packed show. So what's going to happen on this week on the Phillies sports scene with my ugly mug?
Well, we're going to see what happens with Philly Fame Legends this week. We have a couple vaulted in together. So we'll see which one gets released. But as far as Fly Like an Eagle, we're just ramping up for training camp. And then as far as the Patterson Ave Sports Show, we are going to talk about the end of the first half, unofficial first half of the baseball season, and talk about basically the winners and the losers on the Phillies team going forward in the end of this season. We're going to analyze whether or not, if Dave Dombrowski does not bring in a high ticket player, whether he should go.
That's a good question, and I'll be looking forward to every single minute of that, especially because we're coming in lock and loaded this week. We were off last week due to the 4th of July, but we're back at it again this week. By the way, before we go, if you are not a subscriber to Hardcore Sports Network and Stream Punk Entertainment, hit that like and subscribe button on our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and everything about that included. But now for everyone behind the scenes, now for Mark Baker, for Joey Marks, the Marks Brothers, and everything about that included, I'm James Scorza here, and this has been This Week in Phillies Baseball. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon, and enjoy the All-Star break, and we'll see you next time.